One of the earliest builds I tried in Hellclock was a Bell Summoner, and it wasn't very good. The damage was low, the gameplay was laggy, and in general I found it awkward. But I didn't give up on the idea because I wanted to make an awesome Bell Summoner. I kept tinkering, and I tried different combinations. And now I am really happy to announce that I've made an awesome Minion Summoner Rosary build that melted everything. I used it to clear Ascension 10, and on the final boss, I burned through its 1.3 billion health in around 7 seconds, meaning I had just shy of 200 million DPS, which is like 20 times higher than the last build I played. So yeah, it's pretty awesome, and I've had a lot of fun putting it together. With that said, let's get into the build, starting with gameplay and blessings, then moving on to the core, relics, skills, all that, and finally wrapping everything up with some thoughts on my gameplay experiences. So how do you play this awesome screen cluttering summoner build? Well, most of the gameplay is using Old Bell a few times, either spam it until you run out of mana, or just give it a good few uses so that you summon a bunch of minions. Then you run through the level, keeping passage on cooldown while looking for treasure chests to open and other things to pick up. More running and more distance traveled means more rosary projectiles summoned, causing your minions to do even more damage. And if you notice stuff isn't dying quickly, that's probably a sign to use the Old Bell to get more of your minions back. While you're doing this, you want to maintain your conviction by keeping closed body on cooldown and using a couple of potions. It takes a little bit to get into the habit of this, but think of it like hitting your flasks every 2 seconds in Path of Exile. All the OGs will get that reference, and you're probably like, yeah, I don't really miss that. But I gotta say, I found this a lot more enjoyable than the Flask Piano from back in the day. In doing it, I often had around 20,000 conviction, which is a huge defensive health pool and also a significant damage bump. Then, if you want a specific enemy to die, just hit Summon Catholic Guard, double the number of minions you have, and watch them absolutely melt. If you want to go for the risky, all or nothing play, spam all your potions. This will certainly melt bosses even faster, but it leaves you without any potions to fall back on if you do start getting hit. Now, when it comes to blessings, most of them won't directly increase your damage. For Blessing of Foundation, I found crit chance and evasion were the best bets, though elemental damage is also pretty good. On Rosary, I scaled projectile speed, projectile duration, and damage in that order. Speed meant more hits, duration meant the rosaries persisted for longer, so I had more of them, and damage is, well, damage. Ignore skill speed as you're never casting the skill directly. On Summon Catholic Guard, I prioritized Catholic Guard's rage cooldown and duration. This is to keep the doubled guard effect up as much as possible. After that, grabbing damage is good. Then last up, for utility skills, lower mana cost on the Old Bell, increased conviction gain from closed body, and passage cooldown are all great. Also, if you're using Lasso via the Northern Belt, grab some Lasso cooldown as well, as it's a pretty fun quality of life option that will help you perma-stun enemies and even in some cases bosses. But overall, I found this build was far more reliant on getting the relics and then using potions well than it was on obtaining specific blessings within a run, which also makes it remarkably consistent. So let's take a look at those relics, talents, and constellations that make the build tick. Alright, so skills and skill ranks. There are two important things to keep in mind. The first is the scaling or stats on the skill, and the second is the global buff it gives per rank. So for the Old Bell, in terms of the skill itself, you don't really need it to do damage, so level 1 would be fine. But you get 1.5% life and mana, making you more tanky, giving you more resources per rank, so I maxed this out at 8. Also, yes, I'm technically setting this up for damage, but that's not required, it's just for fun. On the closed body, though, when I had it all the way up at rank 8, I found it was a little bit hard to continually use it on cooldown and continue generating that barrier of conviction. So rank 4-ish felt most comfortable. The more CDR you have, the higher this can go. The higher it is, the bigger the barrier. The lower it is, the shorter the cooldown. And the same for Summon the Guard and Passage. Both of these give cooldown recovery speed per rank, so increasing the rank is better. But the point of Summon the Guard is to use the Catholic Guard Rage to double the total number of guards that you have. And the point of Passage is to carry your minions teleporting from around the level plus add mobility. So currently I am doing 8 and 1. These are not specific numbers you have to hit. 4 and 4 might work. 1 and 8 might work. Just whatever ends up being comfortable to you. I experimented. 8 and 1 feels the best right now, so that's what I'm going with. And then last up, Holy Rosary. This does quite a bit of additional damage and gives you a crit damage buff. Now, the base damage for the one surrounding you continually scales up with the levels. Remember, the version around your minions is a lot weaker, except there's a lot more of them. I highly recommend maxing this out. It goes all the way up to level 8 for me because of my Infernal Bell tree. But if you're earlier on in a run and you only have like 6 total ranks, rank 6, whatever, just max this out always. Remember, the mana cost here does not matter, so there is no downside to maxing it out. Then we have the Reliquary and Relics. I'm going to divide these into 2 categories. The important ones you need for the build to work, and then the really cool ones that I like that maybe aren't quite as required. So, for the build to function, first up, Bead Necklace. Holy Rosary fires automatically as you move. That is why my character can just run around and all of these Holy Rosaries are spawning. Holy Water provides the massive defense bonus. This way, instead of using a potion and recovering health, the potion gives a massive amount of conviction. This is really, really good defensively and makes you pseudo-invulnerable. Third up, Worker's Tools. This causes the Rosary to cast from the summons. Again, this is how we have so many Rosaries spinning around so many minions. Fourth up, Toll of the Dead. This is what causes Old Bell to spawn the Spirit of Canudos Catholic Guard. So, more bell uses equals more minions, and this ignores the normal limit that skill has. These 4 items are the core of a build. The build will not function even at a baseline level without these 4 things. In addition, Call of the Guard is very helpful. This doubles the number of guards, functionally doubling your damage for about 10 seconds. Again, the shorter the cooldown on the active use effect, the more often this is going to be up. Similarly, the Golden Chaplet causes the Rosary to orbit at a fixed distance, which I found to be more consistent, and it increases its damage by 66%. This isn't super important, and honestly, depending on your playstyle, you might actually prefer to have the Rosaries spin out rather than orbiting at a fixed distance, but I found it to be helpful. In addition, because you are getting so much conviction, Written Promise is a huge damage gain. In like early acts, Act 1 of Ascension, you don't necessarily need this, but you will want to pick this up for the endgame because this is how you mow through bosses. Also, passage is really important. I noticed that the Catholic guards tend to just stand back and shoot stuff. The problem with that being that they're not always standing within Rosary range. So having this, you can teleport around, which teleports the guards, which means you can position them to deal maximum damage to enemies. Then after that, these things are a little bit less important, but I've included them just for fun / because I had them. Bloody Doll, extra spell damage scaling. If you have like 10-20 summons, this is a lot of extra damage. Northerner Belt, it casts Lasso and Crit. With so many hits, you're constantly going to be critting. And Lasso is really good at grouping / stunning enemies. In fact, some enemies just don't do anything because they get stunned. Unshakable Faith, this is Old Bell being increased by 82% of maximum mana. I found this to be very fun. It is certainly not required. Old Bell doesn't need to do damage, but I've never come across a damage boost and said, well, actually I'd rather do less damage rather than more. And then for Rare Relics, skill projectile amount means more Rosary Balls, aka more damage. And then last up, this small relic is just for the resistances, and because it's a 1x1, didn't have anything else that fit. Now for the Infernal Bell, I tried a different spec this time, and it worked really well. So shout out to Luna, who on my previous video recommended going into all of the gold gain and soul gain nodes. Yeah, turns out it's really fun, and with the relic upgrade discount, you can actually upgrade way more stuff. So for my pathing, I started with the damage increases. Just like before, damage increases are really important. I put as many points as I could into here until the game basically was like, you need to put in more points before you can continue. I did also grab the crit chance, because 5% base crit, pretty impactful. Then I came up here, again focusing on soulstone gain and gold gain. After I reached this point for the 4th blessing, I expanded out the Hell Clock timer and the Reliquary size upgrades before coming left over here to get Red Portal. This way I could zip through the levels. Later on, I started filling out additional points, so as these unlocked, top and bottom for more damage and more relics. I also took the mana stuff. Slight cost reduction, not super impactful, but it feels nice. And I came over here for some potion synergies, because potion life regen percentage equals even more conviction, thus more invulnerability and more damage. I found this was important by Act 3, but not as important early on. And also, if you want to get a whole bunch of soul stones, you can just run through Act 2 once. Act 2 is a really good farming act, especially if you have all the soulstone gain nodes. Now, gear, ultimately, I didn't find that to be as important on this build. I spent most of my money actually rerolling the shop to try to buy some unique relics. In terms of gear, I've got just a weapon of attack speed, feels really good, not super important. Crit chance, base damage. Conviction decay resistance is actually quite nice. Movement speed, cooldown speed, obviously got to go fast, and then just some minor defensive bonuses. Last up, Constellations. I started here and I took pretty much everything because I'm trying to unlock things on the promises list. Probably not ideal, but hey, it works. Then I came over here to get mana orbs and fix my mana regen. I don't know if this was actually worth it ultimately, but there aren't that many things that interact directly with summons, and most of them are in the faith tree, so I went with it. Also came down here for some nice little mana shield, and I came up here to St. Hedwig for Power to the Oppressed. You gain a maximum power orb if you have at least 5 active summons, which all the time, this build should have active summons, and the summon damage is increased. My understanding of why this is important is because this relic here says Holy Rosary is cast from current summons instead, scales with summon damage. So I am assuming this is multiplicative damage for my Holy Rosary, which makes St. Hedwig really important, and you want to at the very least unlock her. Then additionally, I went over here for some agility and power orb enhancements, additional projectile damage and cooldown recovery speed. And then, last but not least, I came down here for conviction gain and conviction decay resistance, since this was a super tanky build that also scaled damage based on conviction. So in short, what would I recommend for a slightly more optimal path? Probably start Faith, then go here, 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 here. For the additional points, not really sure, just put them into defenses or crit, whatever you're lacking. If you have any recommendations for other points on the constellation tree, let me know down in the comments below. Alright, and now for a few closing thoughts. When I first came across the Veil of Quills build, it felt pretty crazy. It was certainly better than anything I'd tried before. It was melting bosses, and you know what? It got me through Act 3 of a campaign. I had a lot of fun playing that build, and I also enjoyed sharing it. In some ways, that's kind of what inspired me to make this video. But here's the thing. That had about 10 million DPS, at least based on the time to kill for the final boss. This one has more like 200 million, or just shy of that, which is a pretty damn crazy jump. And it makes me wonder, is this the most OP build in Hellclock? Or is there something even crazy? Now, at this point, I'm not sure if that even matters. Yes, I have not done all the way up to Hell 35, but I kind of feel like things aren't going to get so much more health that 200 million damage isn't enough. That said, I am really curious about what other things are available in the game, so if you found something really broken, let me know, and also get subscribed because I'm going to be exploring more stuff and playing more builds, and whether it's this OP or not, as long as I had fun, I'm probably going to be talking about it in the future. But for now, I'm going to go and push some higher Ascension levels. So with that said, I really hope you enjoyed the build. If you want something else to watch, maybe check out my previous Veil of Quills build. Like I said, not as strong, but still really fun, and it got me through the campaign. On the other hand, if you're looking for more games to play, then check out my Steam Curator page where I play a whole bunch of different games and give my thoughts on all of them. Those will both be linked down in the description below. For now, thank you very much for watching to the end. I'm glad you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.